Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ryan Mayo. I make videos about politics, about economics, about finance, about anything that I think is important that I'd like to share with you guys. I appreciate you taking the time to watch the video, and if you like it, feel free to smash that like button, and if you'd like to see more, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Today's video is going to be a transition update where we stand. It's going to be new lockdowns that are hitting states like California, and if that's going to spread. Going to have a stimulus update where that stands, if we think we might get something before the end of the year or not, and of course an update on where we stand with vaccines as well. So first and foremost, big news just over the last 24 to 48 hours. We are having a transition. It has begun. The General Services Administration has released over $6 million to the Biden campaign for them to start the process of transitioning government. What does that mean? It means that this is money he can use to interview new possible employees, to meet with all of the heads of the various operations so that they can pass over and pass through their knowledge to their new predecessors. Imagine walking into a company or a corporation and you're the new boss and you're going to bring in all new employees, but your old employees have to the old employees have to tell these new employees how things work, where the water cooler is, where the documents are. That's also going to help the Biden campaign get information about the ongoing global health crisis, where our stockpiles are, just general information that will help them run the huge bureaucracy that is our government. So that is a good thing, good news. We also had word that not only is the funds been unleashed and unlocked, but the intel reports are now going to start being distributed to President-elect Biden. He'll start receiving those reports. He had been getting some information as well because Kamala Harris, the vice president-elect, is on the intelligence committee in the Senate, so that kind of gave them a little bit of information, but now he's going to get the full gambit of information, and it does finally seem like President Trump, even though he is not admitting any sort of defeat, he's still in his defensive stance with regards to that, is starting to at least allow the government to function and transition to the next administration, which is happening. It is it is going to happen. Several states, including Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, very soon. Georgia has already certified their vote, so Joe Biden is going to be the president. I also wanted to update you guys on the latest with regards to lockdowns. California, 94% of the residents in California are now under the most restrictive lockdown in the tiers. I live here in California, so the tier is purple tier. It means that many things like salon, any indoor dining, mostly outdoor dining as well, is now going to be off limits, not going to be happening. The reason we're being told by the governor that's happening is because of a 48% increase in hospitalizations due to the health crisis, and a 39% increase in ICU occupancy. That means that the hospitals are filling up, they're running out of resources. California is very lucky. It's a huge medical network. When one piece of the network gets overloaded, there's a lot of other parts of the network it can reach out to get help. But they are in the medical community starting to worry, so it's something to keep an eye on. But the good news, and then that brings me to my next topic, is that we're having great results from these vaccine trials. Pfizer has applied and received emergency authorization to start distributing their vaccine. That should be starting to be processed, and the first vaccine should go out sometime in December. From what I'm reading and researching, that's going to go to first responders, to the medical community first, and then to the greater community. That vaccine is posting an efficacy of over 90%. Moderna is also posting an efficacy of over 90%. They are soon to also request emergency authorization and are very likely to receive it. So there's some great news on the vaccine front. If we can get through this rough patch of what's happening now, it's a very good indication that spring or early summer we could start to get this thing under control, which is great news. Which brings me to an update on where things stand on stimulus and the economy. So on one hand, the Dow hit 30,000 points today. Huge day for the Dow. Kind of blows a hole in the idea that investors, the stock market, either hates Democrats or would hate Joe Biden. Now that it's become pretty solid that Biden's going to be the president, under that theory, you'd expect a drop, but that's not what we saw. We're seeing surges in the market. I think more than anything, the market doesn't care who's president. They do like stability. They like to know the rules of which they're going to play, and then they'll adapt around those rules. I'm sure they prefer market-friendly presidents, or presidents who aren't going to raise taxes too much, especially capital gains taxes on investments. But at the end of the day, uncertainty is what kills capitalism. Uncertainty is what messes with the money, and they don't want to mess with the money, I assure you of that. So it's, in one hand, a very good day, but in another hand, also very troubling and very indicative of the challenges we face. There are 20 million people unemployed. 20 million. That is as big of a number as since the Great Depression. So on one hand, the markets are doing very well, but there's a disconnect between the markets and between the greater economy that working people live under. And I think it's our obligation and our elected officials' obligation to focus on normal working people, because that will take care of itself with regards to the investor class. So that also leads me to some more information about the stimulus, where that stands because of what's happening. Some kind of big disappointing news. The current Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin, has moved $455 billion that was passed and authorized to be spent on the American people through the CARES Act into an account so that his successor, Janet Yellen, with the Biden administration, has to seek congressional approval to use the funds. So basically, the American people and Congress, our representatives, have approved this pot of money, and the Trump administration hasn't spent the $455 billion. So instead of passing it to the next administration so they can use it to help people, use it to cut checks to directly to the American people, do whatever they need to do to help folks in need, they have to actually go back to Congress, go back to the drawing board and get it approved again to spend. And this is where I get a little concerned. This is where I get a little frustrated, because I really think that the Republicans are very likely to go back to the stance that they had during the Obama administration, which is to say that their strategy is to not let Democrats pass anything. They're not trying to work with the other side. They are going to stifle the other side so that during the midterms they can point at you and say you haven't passed anything. But they will not have passed anything because there was no one on the other side to help them. And unlike the Obama and the Trump administration, Biden's unlikely to come into the government controlling all facets of it. Obama and Trump could get things done to an extent because they had both houses of Congress. So they, up until the midterms, where each of them parties got wiped out, they had a pretty good way of getting things passed. Biden's going to have a much more difficult road to hoe. And truly, the special elections in Georgia, 2 seats up for grabs, are going to dictate what type of government we're going to have moving forward. If Biden can get 1 or 2 of those seats, then he's going to be able to pass some legislation. There's still going to be the trouble of the filibuster, which, if for those of you who aren't familiar, means instead of having, we have 100 senators, some Republican, some Democrat, but we have 100 senators. Instead of needing 51 votes, which is a simple majority to pass a bill, there's what they call the filibuster, which is the ability for the minority party to require the majority party to have 60 votes to pass any bill. Some people, I'm starting to lean towards this this thought process, are of the thought that if these parties aren't gonna work together, then that makes getting 60 votes impossible. And if getting 60 votes is impossible, then it shouldn't matter. A simple majority should rule, and what is good for one side will be good for the other as well. And what's bad for one side, or the downsides of just having 51 votes needed to pass anything, are downsides for both sides. And that also has an effect on the voters as well, because it tells us that there are consequences for our voting, that elections have consequences, and when you vote for a party and you vote for an ideology, you should not then be surprised that they pass the things that they said they wanted to vote for. And I think that's important. So I'm starting to lean towards the school of thought that Biden should, if he should try to have them work with him, but if they won't, he should nuke the filibuster in 5 seconds and start passing stuff. Because if you pass stuff that's popular with the American people, you are going to be a popular president who wins re-election. If you don't, you won't. Just like Trump, the American people will dispose of you if you don't take care of them. It's really that simple. But overall, these are great updates. So the government's starting to move. The transition's happening. There are some new lockdowns, and that's a bummer. But there's vaccines that are coming. Vaccines that are showing great efficacy. They're working with a lot of people. They have very similar side effects to the normal flu, where you might feel kind of like crap for a couple days. But then you've got 90% or so protection. And that's a great thing. We do need to get stimulus to the American people. We do need to work on that. And that's really on us as citizens and voters to make sure that our elected officials know that the number one priority going into 2021 is helping normal people, helping working people, getting people back to work, getting the economy going, defeating the global health crisis so that we can open up the economy fully. That should be our number one concern. Doing everything we can to get money and resources to schools so schools can be open. I think it's way more important to keep schools open than it is to keep bars or hair salons. And I like to get my hair cut as much as the next guy or gal, but it's really critical that we focus on that. And I feel like even in a state here like California, we're spending a lot of time focusing on business and not a lot of time focusing on our kids, and that's most important. So please, I'm curious what you guys think of the video. I'm curious what you think of some of the questions here. Are you guys interested in taking that vaccine? I know a lot of people who even my wife, who doesn't want to be the first person to take the vaccine. I'm slightly more gung-ho about it, but I'm interested to hear from you guys what you think. Any of the topics that we've addressed today, if you got any pertinent information to share, leave those comments in it below. I really appreciate you taking the time. Again, if you like the video, hit the like button. If you want to see more, please subscribe to the channel. My name is Ryan Mayo. It's truly been a pleasure. Till next time.